These plants have blown my mind this last year. These plants have been, funny enough, the easiest plants in my collection. And yeah, they've just been giving me amazing growth, not giving me any grief. And I just could not live without them. Hello everyone, welcome to my jungle story. I'm Jacqueline and today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite houseplants of 2024. These are plants that I've had in my collection for quite a while. There are only 2 plants out of these 10 that I've actually purchased this year. All of the other plants are plants that I already had in my collection, and some of them have given me a little bit grief over the years, but some of them have just been so incredibly easy and so rewarding. And some of them have even given me such grief in the past, and this last year have had no pests, no issues whatsoever. So yeah, it just goes to show how every single year can be different. So let's start off. I have not put these into any order whatsoever. These are just my top 10 favorite. It would be way too difficult to rate these. So I think I'm going to start off with the biggest plants, and the biggest plant is definitely, wait, let me bring you down. Okay, this is definitely my biggest plant. I don't even know if the light, let's have a look. Oh, it's a little bit on the darker side. But yeah, this is my Alocasia regal shield. It is so big. I mean, look at my hand compared to that leaf. That is that's the latest leaf. And I have actually recently taken quite a couple of leaves off the bottom because right there is the back door and Lexi passes here a lot. My kids are constantly here as well. This plant honestly used to getting a beating. It's living in semi-hydro and my daughter sticks her hands in that pot. I'm not even joking, on an hourly basis. Like, she's obsessed with the semi-hydro. It's just becoming a joke at this point. But yeah, we have taught her to put the pebbles back into the pot, so that's something. But yeah, this plant is so incredibly resilient. It has hardly given me any grief, honestly. Okay, my jumper keeps on getting stuck in the tenderosa. Yeah, it's just, I don't know what else to say about this plant. It's just so easy. I'm on top of this plant quite a lot. Like, I make sure that I check this plant quite frequently because Alocasia is obviously known to get spider mites, and with this plant, if it gets spider mites because of the, I want to say like velvety leaves, I'm not sure if that's quite 100%, I don't know, but because of the texture of the leaves and also the color of the leaves, they're a very, very dark color. If this one does get spider mite damage, it is very noticeable and it looks absolutely awful. I mean, spider mite damage looks awful anyway, but with this plant, it just looks even worse. So I am very on top of dusting, cleaning leaves, checking this plant. Compared to my other Alocasia, this plant has probably only had spider mites twice this year, which is not a lot at all compared to the drama that I've had in my collection this year from spider mites. So yeah, I have unfortunately burnt that leaf there a little bit. That was up against this. This is a SANSI 36 watt light, and yeah, this light is specially for this plant and also for the tenderosa down here, which we recently moved here. But I have noticed that Lexi, she's losing a lot of hair, and every single time she passes here, her hair gets stuck in the leaves. But yeah, this had to make my favorite list. It is just such a stunning plant. I would highly, highly recommend, if you like want to get into Alocasia and are a little bit nervous about it, go for the regal shield. It is also a hybrid, which is something that I actually, funny enough, only recently discovered. It is a hybrid of the black velvet and the portadora. No, the black velvet and the odora, not portadora, odora, yeah. And I think hybrids in general just are a little bit easier. That's not always the case, but with this one, it definitely is. I think this plant would honestly just be like unkillable, in my opinion. I think, yeah, I don't know if it's quite safe to say that, but it's just a highly recommended plant. All of these plants actually are plants that I would recommend just as easy house plants. Especially the Alocasia genus is known to be quite dramatic and people are, scared of it. If you are scared to enter that genus, go for this one. This one is so incredibly rewarding. This was a tiny plug the beginning of this year. It's just, there's actually 2 in here. The one at the bottom has not really done much. It's honestly fighting and holding on to dear life comparing to this one, because this one is, yeah, this one has sized up quite a lot. And I can see, I don't know if it's ready. Oh yeah, I can feel a bump there already for the next leaf. And this one has not even like fully hardened off yet. But it is just such a beautiful alocasia. The back leaves are like this dark, it's like a dark purpley color. I don't really know if it's going to pick up. But yeah, love this plant. My absolute baby. All right, then next up is actually one of Mitch's plants, but this was a plant that I chose. So they were doing a deal in a garden center and we actually got 2 of these, and the other one has a tiny little leaf, has not done anything, but it's also in a tiny pot. So I guess, you know, that kind of makes sense. But that is the crystallinum. If I can bring you over a little bit. That's this beauty. I mean, look at it compared to me. It's huge. Yeah, this is our biggest Anthurium. This is a crystallinum hybrid. I don't know what it's hybridized with, but this plant has grown so much this last year. It is so easy. It has, as you can see, taken a little bit of a beating from my kids. Well, actually mainly Maya, my daughter, but anyway. But yeah, this plant has had pests a couple of times, and that is just due to, I think it's had thrips probably twice, and I don't think it's ever had spider mites. No, it hasn't. It's mainly thrips actually. So yeah, there were a couple of leaves this year that unfortunately did not look the best because of that. But anyway, this plant is so resilient and just bounced back, and it gave us this leaf. This is taking forever to harden off. It's like it's been more than 6 weeks now. And it's taking, I've noticed that with a lot of Anthuriums this time of year, that they just take longer. They're still giving us growth, but like root growth and the rate that the leaf expands and hardens off at, like the time frame is just a lot longer. It takes a lot longer. But yeah, this plant has also given us so many inflows. There's a really, really big one. I don't know if it's gonna, if you can see it. But yeah, this plant had to make the list. Stunning, stunning, stunning. We recently put it, well, recently, it's actually been in this big pot for quite a while now, actually. And I think that's definitely the reason to why it's sized up so nicely. It is just an eye catcher. It's stunning. It's so beautiful. I love that Anthurium. And funny enough, is that the only, no, it's not, it's not. What am I saying? What am I saying? I was gonna say it's the only Anthurium on the list, but it's not. This. Might as well start with that one next. It is this one. Oh my word. This is my clarinervium, and this is actually my first Anthurium. So this one has a very special place in my heart. This one, the first year that I got it, had thrips, I think about 3 times in a row. And honestly, I was so over this plant. I really was. I think this is my 3rd year of having this plant now. And I cut back all of the foliage and kind of just, you know, reset this plant. I gave it a lot more light because I was neglecting it. I think I was living in the bathroom and it wasn't getting the best of light. And yeah, it's, you know, plants are obviously going to respond if you treat them better. You know, they're living organisms. This is its latest leaf, which is already going to be a nice size. But yeah, this plant, as you can see, it's tilting one way, and I don't mind that. I like it when my plants do that just because I don't have the time to rotate them all the time. And I just think it's nice to have one display side. You know, I think that just complements the plant a lot more instead of having a 360 view, because I have not got the time to move it all the time. But yeah, this plant has got a very, very special place in my heart. My first Anthurium, it has survived 2 plant burnouts. It is just one of those, I feel like one of those really classic plants that I just could not live without. All of these plants, I can't live without them. Obviously, they're my favorite. It did give me a lot of drama compared to other Anthuriums, but this one just takes the cake. It's just so beautiful. So yes, I only had 2 Anthuriums on this list, which is quite surprising considering that I'm really getting into them lately. But I feel like I really wanted to make this list, and for me, these are my classic plants that I just couldn't live without. I know I'm going to keep on saying that, but I can't live without these plants. But they're also plants that I've had in my collection for quite a while, more than 6 months. I think the youngest plant on this list was from exactly 6 months ago that I bought it in May. And I'm actually going to try and bring it over. I'm going to have to move the camera back because it is so big. And I've bought other plants here as well. Let's try and attempt this. Okay, I think I've got all of it in frame. Yeah, this is my Thai constellation. Oh my word, it is so big. This plant, I got this plant in May of this year, and it is just one of my favorite. I cannot express my love for this plant. I was very nervous to get this plant, and I don't regret it one bit. It is such a statement in my collection now, and it is also probably one of my biggest plants. I would say that this is my... Oh, I also have my Sabrina. Oh dear. Maybe my 3rd biggest plant, this one. And I got this plant actually because I thought that it was going to be a little bit on the slower side, and I kind of liked that about it, that it wasn't going to take up a lot of space straight away. And that has not been the case. This one has taken up a lot of space straight away, but I'm not mad about that at all. It is very quickly grown to be one of my favorite plants, and I mean, I don't know if like look at it. This right like by my face is my latest leaf, and it's still quite light green. It's still inflating and hardening off, so I'm not going to touch it. But yeah, this plant is probably giving me four leaves. Is it 4 leaves? Yeah, 4 leaves since I got it in May. I had it for a whole month on my north-facing window, and then I moved it to my south-facing window. And it's only really since then that it gave me those 4 leaves. And it's probably been, yeah, I mean, one almost every 5 to 6 weeks, something like that, until now, until this latest one. It's just blown me away. It really has taken me by surprise. Also, this has also been a plant that I was on the fence about for a long time, not only because I was contemplating between the Alba and this one, but also because this one was quite expensive. I paid 70 euros for quite a nice size one, but at the same time, it's very weird, the prices on this plant. It's very weird. On some websites, you can pay 70 euros for a tiny baby instead of like I'd probably say it was labeled as a large plant, but I would say it was more on the medium size. The biggest leaf that it had, was it this one? No, it was this one. This leaf here was the biggest leaf that it had. So I don't know, I would label that more as medium. So I don't really know what the deal is with pricing with this plant. Obviously this is a man-made one. This isn't one that you can find, in nature, like the Alba you can. So maybe that's why it's taken its time, and also because it is labeled as a slow grower. However, that's not been the case with me. But I have heard from other growers that I went to a plant event, and they also spoke about the Thai constellation, that it is on the slower side. I could just have one that has good genes. I really don't know. But even the growers there said that it is on the slower side if you compare it to other Monsteras. Yeah. But I think my expectations of this plant were just that it was going to be incredibly slow and only give me like maybe 2 leaves a year. I don't know. I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, this plant very, very quickly creeped onto my favorites list of 2024. Okay. I'm going to have to put footage in of the next plant because it is very big and I have to move a lot of plants to get to it. And it is also currently giving us its first new leaf in quite a while, so I don't want to disturb this plant. But that's the Philodendron splendid. And we've had this plant in our collection also for quite a while. That is also technically one of Mitch's plants, but we have quite a couple. I have so many cuttings from Splendid. We have the bottom part as well. We have another separate one because I bought a glorious this year, but it wasn't a glorious, it was also a splendid. So yeah, we have quite a couple of the splendid, but the one that we have currently living downstairs is our biggest one. I mean, it's got the biggest leaves. I'll also insert footage of like the other one that we have. That one was labeled as a glorious, but it's clearly not. And if it wasn't for you guys, if it wasn't for my philodendron collection video, I would have never found out that that actually wasn't. But once it was pointed out to me that that wasn't a glorious, it was very, very obvious. And it was kind of a little bit of like a duh moment. But anyway, the splendid has been also it's just one of those statement plants in our collection. It is so big, it is so easy. It has only had thrips once this year, and that was because of, that was because of an unboxing that I did. So if I didn't order those plants, I don't think I would have had thrips on that plant. It is also plants that is very resilient to pests. Like I've had plants in the same area have mealies, I have spider mites, I have thrips, and that plant never got it. It only really had it once this year. And although I would love to say it didn't have pests this year, that plant was very, very easy to get rid of the thrips on that plant. It's also one that it bounces back very, very quickly from like chop and extend. It doesn't really throw a fit. It doesn't throw leaves as often as, other plants do. It just looks good all of the time. And if you want a big leaf philodendron, a velvety philodendron that grows really, really quickly, definitely get the splendid, because this plant was teeny tiny just a year ago. I think a year ago, the leaves are about this big, maybe, I think. And that plant also suffered some serious neglect last year, considering that this time last year it was so tiny. We only had just put it on a moss pole. It has probably gone through about 3 or 4 like chops and like extensions as well. It's just so resilient. It's so easy, and it is honestly happy pretty much anyway. That plant has been in a north-facing window, south-facing window, in front of a grow light. It moves very quickly to the light as well, so you don't have to wait as long. Whereas some plants, what was it? I think it was an Anthurium that looked so incredibly awkward. I put a grow light in front of it to try and get it to, get a prettier display from this plant, and it took forever. But philodendrons in that sense, they are a little bit easier than that. But yeah, I highly recommend this plant. I should have put this plant on my easiest houseplants list, but maybe I could make a part 2 to that. But I think I could probably, no, not all of these. I wouldn't add all of these to that list, but definitely most of them. Yeah, the splendid. I think those are the last big plants. Let's go for the next size down. I'm going from big to small. Actually, the splendid should have been, no, the Thai constellation is bigger than the splendid at the moment anyway. There's of course Hoya on this list. This plant was tiny, absolutely tiny. I think it was just March that I got this plant. Oh my word, there's no words. I can't describe how much I've fallen in love with this plant. It was one of those plants that I also see this as a very classic. Like people who love Hoya usually do have this plant because it is, it's a very, ooh, you dusty. Is that dust? Yes, it is. It is a very, very easy Hoya. Very, very easy. It just ticks all the boxes for me. Foliage wise, it's got like that beautiful veining on it. These leaves, look at that. Look at my hand compared to that leaves. I didn't know that this plant got so big. I had no idea. I thought that they would stay round about like this size, but I did not think that these leaves could get this big. This lives on my south-facing window, and it has never really taken a break. I only just noticed that even like the stems are pink. That is so pretty. Yeah, I look at the back of this plant most of the time because it is, it's on my window. So, which is kind of sad. The back of the leaves are also very, very pretty. They've got like this white, I don't know, the backs are also very, very pretty. Yeah, I can't describe how much I love this plant. This is a very interesting leaf. Like, look at that one. It's just so pretty and so easy. And this is probably, I repotted this in a video as well, but this is definitely the one that's rooted the most. Look at those roots. Yeah, I've talked about this plant quite a couple of times in like favorites lists, and if you've been following my channel, you know that I absolutely adore this plant and I couldn't live without it. It is just, it ticks all of the Hoya boxes for me. Foliage-wise, that like veining on it, it's variegated as well. It's just so, that's another highly variegated leaf there. It's just so pretty. It is such a fast grower as well. I think when I got this plant, it had about 4 or 5 leaves. It was bigger than I thought it would be, because on the website it was labeled as a baby plant, but I don't know, it was quite big. And then I repotted it in a video with you guys. Ever since then, it's just, I mean, again, yeah, look at this. I'm doing this on a weekly basis. This plant is such a fast grower. I remember this time last year when I was like, the Hoya itch was coming. It was coming. I was looking them up a lot more. I hadn't ordered any new ones this time last year yet, but it was definitely that itch it was coming. I could feel it. And I thought, okay, Hoyas, you know, that's great. They are labeled as like slower growers and they won't take up a lot of room. I mean, this doesn't take up a lot of room, even though it is one of my biggest. I think, it is. It's my biggest Hoya, definitely. So I thought, you know, I ended up getting quite a lot of Hoyas, and this one has definitely surprised me the most growth-wise. It is a very, very fast grower. So if you do get this one and you give it all the right conditions, a lot of light. Light is so incredibly important. This one will grow very, very fast for you. I also fertilize my Hoyas every single time I water them. I water them probably every 2 weeks. Sometimes longer, it depends. I've noticed it really, really does depend on the weather outside. I have not noticed a big difference whether it was cold or warm. It just depends on if it's very humid or if it's been raining a lot. But temperature-wise, I've not actually noticed that much of a difference. For example, like now, it is very like it's that spitting rain that just has not stopped. I've noticed that my plants, I don't have to water them as much. So it really, really does depend on the weather outside. I also run a humidifier that is right next to me here pretty much all day now. But I have noticed probably about the last month and a half that this one dries out a lot quicker. And it is because I think it might need to go into a bigger pot. I love this one. I feel like I've been talking about that one for a while, but I do. I absolutely adore that plant. And then the next Hoya. So this one has a very interesting story. This is my polyneura, and this is actually not my polyneura that I had this time last year. But I still had to put this one on my list because this plant, this time last year looked, yes, this was the one I remember. This was the Hoya that I put on my south-facing window and it started growing amazingly for me. And that plant the year before hardly gave me any growth, and that was just due to the fact that I was not giving it enough light, like at all. I also had it in a very, very dense mix, which is also the reason I think why I lost that polyneura. There was a lot of sphagnum moss in there. I remember what I was doing. I bought that on Facebook and it was in sphagnum moss. And when I potted it up, I just took off a tiny bit of sphagnum moss, but I didn't take all of it off. And I think that's where I went wrong. I should have taken it all off because it stayed moist, like wet. I don't want to say wet. I want to say moist more. Yeah, it stayed moist a little bit longer than it probably would have liked. I mean, this is a thinner leaf Hoya, but I either drowned that plant or it was spider mites, or it was that plant did not have the best overall health to be able to tackle the spider mites. So it was something happened there. So this is the second one that I've purchased this year. And I actually bought this as a polyneura variegata, but it is clearly not variegated. It does have these weird, these weird like little specks on it. I don't know what that is. I have no idea. I hope it's not some type of fungal issue. I'm very glad that I bought it again in my collection. It is definitely one of my more finicky Hoya, but it has given me a lot of new growth since I've purchased it. It's giving me some new leaves there. I have some new growth there. This here at the bottom as well. Those are new leaves. But yeah, it's clearly not a variegata. Oh, what was it? It's also known as the brogette or I don't know. But it's clearly not that. And I also noticed, I don't think it's going to do anything, but I noticed that it has, wait, do you see that there? It's got a peduncle. I don't think it's going to do anything, but the fact that it's already doing that does make me very, very, very happy. So yes, I had to add this one to my list. I love this Hoya so much. It's just such a beautiful one. I just love like this is also known as like the fishtail Hoya. It's just, look at that. It's so pretty. So pretty. I would really love, I almost was contemplating on putting that on my wish list, but my wish list was long enough as it is to put I want the outer variegated version of this, but I've not seen that anywhere available in Europe, so we'll see. But yeah, I absolutely love this one. It does have some really nice roots. This one is actually not living on my south-facing window. This one's living quite close to the grow light. I would say the grow light is probably about here. And maybe that's what that marking is. I don't know, but it's only on a couple of leaves. It's very, very weird. I did treat this plant because I suspected that it had spider mites, but I'm not 100% sure if it was spider mites. I don't know. But anyway, love this Hoya. And then the next Hoya, might as well get all the Hoya out the way, is this one. And the reason why this one is on my list is because it flowered for me this year. I'll put some pictures on screen. But this is this is not called the Eskimo anymore. This is called the Krohniana Super Silver. Yes, that's what it is. And I actually took this one off. I'll see if I can find a picture, but this one was on the trellis and it was so big. So big. And I'm a little bit nervous because I took a lot of cuttings off that plant, and actually, funny enough, those cuttings are rooting in stratum at the moment, and there are 2 cuttings that are blooming for me in the stratum. It's living in my little acabar. I'm a little bit worried that I cut off the pieces that were blooming, so I'm hoping that this one is going to as well, but it all came from the same plant. But I don't see any points where it could. I don't know, I took a very, very drastic chop from this plant. Very, very drastic. I also repotted it. I do have some new growth there. I do have some nice new growth there. But I like this one trailing. It looked really nice on a trellis, but I have too many Hoyas on trellises and I kind of wanted to make a balance. And I think this one just looks really, really pretty hanging as well. So I think I'm probably going to be putting a lot of those cuttings back in here. But, oh, yeah, I do. There's a peduncle. Here's a peduncle. That's so exciting. Okay, wait. There's a leaf stuck. Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Do you see the peduncle there? It's so exciting. Yeah, I really love the foliage of this one. It's so, so pretty and so thick. I love thick Hoyas. So yes, that one had to make the list just because it's my first ever Hoya to bloom for me. Make sure it stays there because yeah, it was hanging up. Yeah, also on my south-facing window. All of my Hoyas either live in my cabinet very close to a grow light or on the south-facing window, and that's how I've kept them the happiest. They seem to be very happy with that. But I've had the Krohniana Super Silver for 2025 will be year 3, I think. Or maybe it'll be year 4. I don't know. It was one of my first Hoyas. I bought this on Facebook Market as a small cutting. And it was also one that as soon as I noticed that the polyneura started growing for me on the south-facing window, I put this one on there as well and blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. I've not really noticed a break in my Hoyas. Usually this time of year, plants will kind of slow down a little bit. I've definitely noticed that with my Alocasia, but with the Hoyas, oh my word. I think the Alocasias are probably the only plants that have really slowed down. Even my Philodendron Yeah, I have in the last like 2 to 3 months, I have added a lot of grow lights. And actually, funny enough, I have even more grow lights that I need to install. Yeah, because of all of those grow lights, I think my plants have just kind of said, "Oh, this is very interesting. I'm not going to take a break this year." But I'm not complaining about it. It's just usually this time of year, there are like some plants that I can maybe slow down on the fertilizing a little bit. I fertilize all year round, but I've not been able to slow down on some of them just because they've not stopped growing. So, I mean, I guess you want that, but at the same time, I was kind of looking forward to having a little bit of a break, just a little bit. But I suppose I shouldn't have so many plants then, but I'm loving the new growth. I really, really am. My alocasias are definitely struggling at the moment, and they are the ones that need a grow light. Grow lights this time of year are definitely the way forward. Okay, let's tick off. Okay, the last two are my favorite genus, Alocasia. It's actually quite a couple of plants here that are Mitch's plants. So this is the Alocasia Dragon Moon, and that new leaf there, look at it. It is so stunning. So this plant this year has been a little bit on the slower side. I still, every single time it gave me a new leaf, I really, really appreciated it, and it was absolutely stunning. But ever since we put it back into, well, I don't want to say back, but Mitch has kind of been taking his plants back this time of year. And I don't know if you can tell, but his cabinet is very, very, the foliage is going insane in there. His plants are so incredibly happy in there. And that's also because he's taking a little bit of better care for them. But this is one that we put back into his cabinet because we actually completely forgot that this is actually one of Mitch's plants. This leaf has just blown me away. It is so stunning. It's just so beautiful. I cannot. I have noticed, I mean, there are a lot of nice roots there, but this plant is definitely, I don't know if this one absolutely, I don't know if you really can tell. Oh yeah, there you can see. Yeah, there are some roots there that don't look the best. I don't think that my Alocasia are really appreciating this chunky semi-hydro that I have. I don't know what it is. I can't really find a happy medium with it. It's only really since I moved, I had a lot of my Alocasia in Latifolia, and then I moved them to the coarse mix, the chunky semi-hydro mix, and they kind of started throwing fits. I lost a couple of Alocasia. It's just, yeah, really, really weird. So I don't know if they really like that chunkier mix. I don't know. I think they appreciate the finer mix a little bit more, but I am experimenting with that. So obviously I love my Alocasia, so I will definitely keep you updated about that. And I'm also experimenting. My next one is in that mix, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But yes, the Dragon Moon, stunning. Also a hybrid. I'll try and see if I can find what it's hybridized with. Definitely got mellow in there, that's for sure. But the back of the leaves are, they have like a red, I mean, look at that. So pretty. I just cannot get over the size of this leaf. And that leaf, it gave us that leaf ever since we put it in the cabinet. So I think it's safe to say. I mean, Alocasia do. They like higher light. So yeah, where it was before, it was right next to the TV, but that was actually before we had the grow lights there in that front room. But I put it in Mitch's cabinet because he needs to have his plants in a specific area. Otherwise, he has a hard time being on top of care, which I completely understand. You know, you need some order up there, you know. And I put it back into his cabinet, and yeah, I started noticing he was on top. This one wasn't drying out as much anymore. Like there's constantly, it's got this little tray. It's constantly in quite a lot. It's got quite a big reservoir. And maybe that's also the reason why it's been doing better. But light is the most important factor when it comes to plant care. So that one definitely did it for it. But I think I'm going to see, I can also see that it's making a comb here at the top. Got to be very careful because this is very thin plastic. You see there? Yeah. There's a little corm popping out there, and I can see it's pushing something there. Oh yeah, it's pushing something there. It's very exciting, very exciting. And then the last plant is this one in one of my favorite pots. I got this, Svetlana did this for me for Firefly in the Room. I love this pot. And it is, of course, a given that one of my favorite Alocasia is in here as well. And this is the pseudo sanderiana. This is one of many. This is currently my biggest one because my biggest mother plant, I had it in pon and it killed off all of its roots. It just said, I've had enough. And I actually have that one. Actually, I'll show you guys that. That's very, very exciting. But yes, that is the pseudo sanderiana. This is living in a DIY Alocasia mix that I made. And as you can see, it's got some nice juicy roots there. And I've noticed that I've had to water this one a little bit more. So maybe I need to, and I can see, you can see that there? It's going to give a nice, it looks like it's going to be a big leaf. But let me show you the mother plant. I potted that one up recently. I did that in my cabinet makeover video. And this one did not have any roots. You guys, if you'd seen that video, you would have known, had no roots whatsoever. And I decided to propagate the corm. Yeah, it was huge. It was probably about this big. I put that in here. First of all, you can see at the top there, there's a new root there coming out, and check this out. Look at that. A root there, one there. So this, and I've not watered this since that video. So yes, it's a very dense mix, but honestly, I'm actually really liking that I've noticed lately that, I need to do some plant care, I need to do some watering, and I look at the plants that I recently repotted in that new mix that I got sent by that company, I think it's Botanica, I think that's the right way of saying it. I've not had to water those plants since that video. And it's actually been really nice, and it's made me feel like, I don't know, it's weird. Like sometimes I'm really behind on watering and I'm like, oh, damn it, I need to water my plants. But with those plants, I've not had that, and it's actually been really, really nice. And I can see a lot of roots in there. I mean, this was a very juicy corm, but that's blown me away. And yeah, this is actually the mother plant. So I have corms everywhere. I've also sold a lot of these, but as you can see, it's a lot smaller. This is just one of the corms, a lot smaller. This one was in pon for a very, very long time, and it was not happy. But this plant, I love it. I absolutely love it. This has also been one that I've not been able to find online, or I think I've actually found a variegated version. I'm not 100% sure. But it's just not one that I've seen. I mean, I buy a lot of my plants online. It's not one that I've seen online. I've seen this, I think it's just a regular sanderiana, but not the pseudo one, whatever. I know there's lots of different varieties. I mean, there is with Alocasia, but I've not seen this specific one. So I feel very, very lucky and very grateful to have this plant, because this was actually a plant that Mitch picked up someone through Facebook. They had a bunch of colocasias and they said, hey, I've got a bunch of corms of this one, do you want it? And Mitch was like, yeah, okay. And we just stuck them into soil or something like that. This lived outside for a very long time as well. It's just a very, very hardy Alocasia. It has hardly ever had pests, which, I mean, knock on wood, for Alocasia, that is amazing. Yeah, I don't think, has this one ever had pests? Even outside it didn't. That's amazing. But yeah, I absolutely love this Alocasia. Absolutely love it. So that one, of course, had to be on the list. But yes, are those all the plants? Yes, they are. So those are my top 10 favorite plants of 2024. I would highly recommend all of these plants. There have been some that have given me a little bit of grief, like the polyneura, for example. But this one now, ever since I got this one, is just so incredibly easy. So easy. And I really cannot complain about these plants. I really, really can't. They are fast growers. They have blown me away this past year. They are just so incredibly rewarding to grow. And if I had to pick an absolute favorite, which is very, very hard, but I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna go with my gut feeling in the moment, but my absolute favorite plant out of all of them is the Regal Shield. It just tops the cake. It really, really does. It just gives me that wow factor. And I remember this year in February, I went to a plant sale and they had a huge Regal Shield for around about the €50 mark, and I was really thinking about getting one. I didn't end up going for it because I already had a tiny little plug. And right now this plant is the same size as that big Regal Shield. So if you have a little bit of patience, you can get the wow factor with this plant very, very quickly. It shoots out corms. Like, my daughter has picked corms out of there, and I feel so bad saying this, but I've thrown a lot of them away because I have so many baby Regal Shields upstairs that I just cannot keep up. I'm giving them away. Like, literally, for Christmas, I've given them away. I've given them away with people who come over and buy plants from me. I've just given them a free Regal Shield because I have so many and I just don't have the heart to throw them away, even though I have thrown some corms away, but I don't have the space for it. Honestly, I could have an entire greenhouse full of Regal Shields. And in summer, I am going to try and grow a Regal Shield outside. Just, I might as well give it a try. I have so many as it is. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know about your favorite plants. I would love to hear that. I love chatting with you guys in the comments. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, please do. It's just a click of a button. It supports me, it helps me out, and it's for free for you guys, and you can come along with me on the journey because I share a lot of my planty things. Honestly, I feel bad whenever I do like plant care and I don't share it. But I have to kind of take my battles because I also have 2 kids. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.